Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum. Today we're going to be talking about the popliteal fossa. Now, just like the cubital fossa in the upper limb, this popliteal fossa is a diamond-shaped depression which is present just behind or posterior to the knee joint, right? Now, this is not a triangular depression. It's not a triangular fossa like the cubital fossa. This is a diamond-shaped depression, and it is present, situated posterior to the knee joint. Now, this fossa, it is a mostly fat-filled compartment of the lower limb, and when it comes to the popliteal fossa, the deeper aspect of it is much larger than the superficial depression which it indicates. Now, the reason for that is that the heads of the gastrocnemius muscle, we'll talk about the gastrocnemius muscle just now, but the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle, which would be right here, they form the a roof over the inferior half of the deep part. Let me make this a little more clear for you. When we talk about the popliteal fossa, and when we talk about the boundaries of the popliteal fossa, there are different boundaries when it comes to the superficial aspect of it and when it comes to the deep aspect of the popliteal fossa. So let's talk about the superficial boundaries of the popliteal fossa first of all. So when it comes to the superficial boundaries, now we've talked about the fact that it is diamond shaped, right? So obviously it's going to have supralateral, supromedial boundaries, and then infralateral and inframedial boundaries, right? So you have done the hamstring muscles just in the previous lecture, so you do realize that on the lateral side, the biceps femoris muscle forms the supralateral boundary of the popliteal fossa, and on the medial side, the semimembranosus muscle forms the supromedial side of the popliteal fossa, the supromedial boundary of the popliteal fossa. Now, just lateral to the semimembranosus, we have the semitendinosus, but the actual boundary of the popliteal fossa is formed by the semimembranosus muscle. Now, when it comes to the inferior two boundaries of the popliteal fossa, we have the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle. Now, the gastrocnemius muscle is a muscle of the leg, right? And as we already know, the leg is the part of the lower limb which is present between the knee joint and the ankle joint, right? So within the leg part of the lower limb, on the posterior aspect, we have the calf, and the calf, and within the calf we have the gastrocnemius muscle. Now, it's a strong flexor of the knee joint, and the gastrocnemius muscle originates from, it has two heads, and these two heads form the lateral and the medial boundaries of the popliteal fossa. Right, so here you can see at the back of the knee, this depression at the back of the knee joint, this is the popliteal fossa, and here you can see this is here you can see the semimembranosus forming the medial, supramedial boundary of the popliteal fossa. Here you have the biceps femoris, which is forming the supralateral boundary of the popliteal fossa, and underneath that, here you have the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle, which would be forming the medial and lateral, inframedial and infralateral boundaries of the popliteal fossa. So this is the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle, and this is the medial head of the gastrocnemius muscle. So this picture here also gives you a good idea of the various boundaries of the popliteal fossa, which are formed by the various muscles. So we have the semimembranosus on the medial side, the biceps femoris on the lateral side, and inferiorly you have the two heads of the gastrocnemius muscle. So these are this is the medial and this is the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. Now, this is the posterior aspect of the femur, this is the tibia, and here you can see so this is the femur, and these are the supracondylar ridges of the femur. And if you remember, we talked about the fact that the insertion of the gastrocnemius muscle here and here, right? So the two heads of the gastrocnemius would be attached here, and they would be forming the inferior boundaries of the popliteal fossa. Now let's move on to the deep boundaries of the popliteal fossa. We talked about the fact that the deep aspect of the popliteal fossa is much larger, it's much bigger as compared to the impression that it gives superficially. Now when it comes to the deep boundaries, moving on from the superior aspect to the inferior aspect, the supralateral and supramedial boundaries will be formed by the two supracondylar ridges of the femur, right? The inferior boundary is formed by the soleal line. Now the soleal line is a line, it's a ridge on the posterior aspect of the tibia, and we of course are going to talk about it when we proceed to study tibia in detail. But for now it's important to know that the inferior boundary of the popliteal fossa is formed by the soleal line on the tibia. This is the line where a muscle known as the soleus muscle is attached. Now let's talk about the roof of the popliteal fossa. When we talk about the roof of the popliteal fossa, we mean the posterior aspect of the popliteal fossa when a person is standing in the anatomical position. So this here is the roof of the popliteal fossa. This is the posterior aspect of this fossa when a person is in the anatomical position, and the roof is formed by the skin first of all. After that, or deeper to that, so this is the superficial part, deep to that you have the superficial fascia, and after that comes the deep fascia. Now the deep fascia in the popliteal fossa is known as the popliteal fascia, and this popliteal fascia is continuous above with the fascia of the thigh, which is known as fascia lata, and inferiorly it is continuous with the fascia of the deep fascia of the leg. The point or the functions of the deep fascia or the popliteal fascia would of course be to protect the neurovascular bundles within the popliteal fossa. It also serves as a retaining retinaculum. Remember when we talked about the flexor retinaculum at the wrist and how it protects or prevents the long flexor tendons of the arm from pulling out. So just like that, in a milder manner, this fascia also serves as a retaining retinaculum for the hamstring tendons. Often this popliteal fascia is pierced by the small saphenous vein. And when we talk about the superficial fascia, which is present between the skin and the deep fascia, this contains the small saphenous vein. Now the small saphenous vein brings the blood, the deoxygenated blood. It's a superficial vein, and it collects blood from the lower limb, and eventually it will drain into the popliteal vein within the popliteal fossa. So it lies within the superficial fascia. Now there are three cutaneous nerves within the superficial fascia as well, and these are the terminal branch of the posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, the medial sural cutaneous nerve, and the lateral sural cutaneous nerve, and together these two join together to form the sural nerve. And these are the structures which are present in the superficial fascia. So here you can see the medial surocutaneous nerve. From the lateral surocutaneous nerve, you have the sural communicating branch, and this would be the sural nerve, right? So these are present in the superficial fascia, and along with that, you can't see it here, but the small saphenous vein is also present in this superficial fascia. Now let's move on to the floor of the popliteal fossa. Now the floor of the popliteal fossa would be the anterior part of this fossa. The roof was the posterior aspect, which was formed by the skin, the superficial and the deep fascias. The floor would be the anterior part. It would be the part just behind the knee joint, right? So when we talk about the floor of the popliteal fossa, it is formed by superiorly it is formed by the popliteal surface of the femur. After that, in the center, you have the posterior surface of the joint capsule of the knee. So this is the knee joint. Now this would be, of course, there would be a joint capsule here. So this joint capsule, the posterior aspect of the joint capsule of the knee joint, would then form the central part of the floor. So the floor extends from here to here. The upper part is formed by the popliteal surface of the femur, then the posterior aspect of the capsule of the knee joint forms the central part of the floor, and then the inferior part would be formed by the fascia which covers the popliteus muscle. Now here's a small muscle, you can't see it here, but there is a small muscle here which is known as the popliteus muscle. It is a small triangular muscle, and it is very important in unlocking of the knee joint. Now we haven't discussed that, and we of course will later, but unlocking of the knee joint is when you are going to start flexing the knee joint. When you start the flexion of the knee joint, it needs to be unlocked, and then you can flex the knee joint. So for unlocking of the knee joint, the popliteus muscle is very important. It's a small triangular muscle present here. Now the fascia which covers this popliteus muscle, this is known as the investing popliteal fascia. So this fascia forms the inferior part of the floor of the popliteal fossa. So now that we've done the boundaries, we've done the roof, we've done the floor of the popliteal fossa, we're going to talk about the contents of the popliteal fossa. Now these include the termination of the small saphenous vein. We've already discussed that just now. After that, you have the popliteal artery, the popliteal vein, along with their branches and tributaries. The other thing is the tibial and the common fibular or common peroneal nerve. Now the sciatic nerve divides at the apex of this popliteal fossa into the tibial nerve and the common fibular or the common peroneal nerve. The common peroneal nerve and the common fibular nerve is the name of the same nerve. You can call it the common peroneal nerve, you can call it the common fibular nerve, right? So these are the two terminal branches. This is what the sciatic nerve divides into at the apex of this popliteal fossa. Then you also have the posterior cutaneous nerve of the thigh, and along with that you also have the popliteal lymph nodes and the lymphatic vessels within the popliteal fossa. So these are all the contents of the popliteal fossa. So we've already talked a little bit about the small saphenous vein and how it terminates into the popliteal vein. The popliteal artery, its branches, and the popliteal vein and its tributaries we will discuss in tomorrow's lecture. Now let's talk about the tibial and the common peroneal nerve a little bit. So here you can see this is the diamond shaped popliteal fossa, the boundaries, the biceps femoris, semimembranosus, the two heads of the gastrocnemius. Now here I've only shown the nerves in the popliteal fossa. So this is the sciatic nerve. At the apex of the popliteal fossa, the sciatic nerve is going to divide into two. One larger branch is known as the tibial nerve, and the smaller lateral branch is going to be named as the common fibular nerve, also called the common peroneal nerve, right? So sciatic nerve divides into the tibial and the common peroneal nerves. The tibial nerve is the larger branch of the sciatic nerve. Now the tibial nerve descends down in the center of the popliteal fossa like that, and the common peroneal nerve, it travels along the margin of the biceps femoris muscle on the lateral margin, supralateral margin of the popliteal fossa. And when it reaches here, this common peroneal nerve, it passes superficial to the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. From here, it's going to travel inside to the it's going to wind around the neck of the fibula, which is the lateral bone of the leg. And after it winds around the neck of the fibula, it divides into its terminal branches. Of course, we'll do that in detail later on, but for now, within the popliteal fossa, this is the tibial nerve, and this part here is the common peroneal nerve, right? Now, from the tibial nerve, you have a medial sural branch, and from here you have a lateral branch, and together these two combine and form the sural nerve here. The sural nerve supplies the lateral side of the leg as well as the ankle. So here you can see a really good view of this popliteal fossa. Let's talk about, this is the sciatic nerve, right? So it's going to descend down on the posterior aspect of the thigh. Now when it reaches the apex of this popliteal fossa here, it's going to divide into the tibial nerve and the common peroneal nerve, or it says here the common fibular peroneal nerve, right? So you can call it either one of those two names. And this is the larger branch, this is the tibial nerve, and this is the common peroneal nerve. Now the common peroneal nerve, as you can see, so this here is the biceps femoris muscle, and it travels along this muscle on the lateral margin of the popliteal fossa here. Along with that, you can also see that this here is the popliteal vein, and deeper to that you will have the popliteal artery. Now when it comes to the popliteal fossa, it's important to remember that the neurovascular structures are arranged in a way that the superficial most of those would be the nerves. Deep to the nerves you have the vein, and the arteries are the deepest structures of the three, right? So the arteries would be present, the popliteal artery and its branches would be present right next to, right behind the knee joint here. So superficial to deep, the nerve, the vein and the artery. Along with that, you can also see this here is the small saphenous vein, and here it's going to drain into the popliteal vein within the popliteal fossa. Again, another view of the same structures. You have, these are the nerves. So the sciatic nerve is going to divide into the tibial nerve and the common peroneal nerve, traveling along the margin of the biceps femoris muscle here. After that, so in the center, or not the center, let's call it the middle, between the nerve and the artery, we have the popliteal vein, right? And the deepest structure would be the artery here, and this is the popliteal artery. We'll talk about the popliteal artery in detail in the subsequent lecture. So let's talk about the tibial nerve. This would be the tibial nerve here, right? And it is the medial larger terminal branch of the sciatic nerve, right? It is the most superficial structure amongst the neurovascular structures. Now this tibial artery, it bisects the popliteal fossa as it descends down the center of this fossa. Now within this fossa, it's going to supply the soleus muscle, the gastrocnemius muscle, the plantaris and the popliteus muscle. We'll talk about all of these muscles later, but here you can see this is a branch, this is a nerve going to the gastrocnemius muscle, the medial head of the gastrocnemius muscle. Then here you have the plantaris muscle, so it's going to supply this as well. The nerve to popliteus, so a triangular muscle I told you about just now, deep to all of this would be the popliteus. So a branch from the tibial nerve goes to supply the popliteus muscle as well. Along with that, the soleus. So this is the soleus muscle, and this is also supplied by the tibial nerve. Here you have a branch from the tibial nerve, which is the medial sural cutaneous nerve. It combines with the sural communicating nerve or the sural communicating branch, and together they form the sural nerve. Here, as I just said, that the sural nerve supplies the skin of the lateral side of the leg as well as the ankle. Talking about the common peroneal nerve, this one is the lateral smaller terminal branch of the sciatic nerve. Now it originates from the sciatic nerve at the superior angle or the apex of the popliteal fossa. Now it closely follows the medial border of the biceps femoris muscle along with the as well as its tendon. So this is where it's going to be, and it leaves the fossa by passing superficial to the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. So here we will have the lateral head of the gastrocnemius. This is the gastrocnemius muscle, the lateral head, and here you can see this is the common peroneal nerve, and it's going to pass superficial to the lateral head of the gastrocnemius muscle. After that, it passes posterior to the head of the fibula, and of course we'll talk about the fibula in detail later on. So then it winds around the neck of the fibula, and as I just said before, it divides into its terminal branches. So that's all about the popliteal fossa for now. Thank you.